week 2 of a series called Human versus Human. It's a sermon series on relationships, and we've been saying this, that this sermon series is for you if you interact with human beings on a regular basis. Like if you talk to human beings, if you email human beings, if you see another human being on a regular basis, this sermon series is for you. We're just walking through what Scripture teaches us and how to interact with other human beings in our lives. Now, growing up, my parents did not have a lot of money. Just didn't have a whole lot of money, so we didn't get all the latest and greatest video games and toys and that kind of stuff. But what they lacked in money, they made up for in creativity on creating games for us. And it was usually like my dad would come up with something and my mom would come home and be like, Robert, you can't teach the kids to do that type of stuff. And so we would do things like he taught us how to make homemade dart guns, which, out of like straws and sewing needles and that kind of stuff. So don't try that at home. And then one day my mom comes home and my dad, we had a trampoline. He had pulled the trampoline up next to the house and we were jumping off the roof onto the trampoline and like having a blast. And it was long before the days of indoor trampoline parks. So those are way safer than don't do that. So we just did those type of things. Like that was the upbringing I had. It was a blast. And one day my dad comes home with this gigantic spool of really thick yellow rope. Like the type you can buy at Home Depot. And he goes, kids, look what I got. And we're like, Dad, it's a spool of yellow rope. And so he goes, no. So he goes out in our backyard. And we had 2 trees. They're about 30 or 40 feet apart. And he ties a rope from one tree to the other, about 3 or 4 feet off the ground. And he ties a second rope about another 4 or 5 feet above that, and essentially makes like a rope bridge for us to climb across. And so you'd be on this one and grab across, and it was a blast. But then all of a sudden, we took it a little step further, and we essentially invented our own version of King of the Mountain. So what would happen is I would get on one end, and buddies of mine would get on the other end, and you'd go, and you would fight. And you would just kind of like try to kick each other off and, on the ground, try not to break arms, call the hospital, that kind of stuff. So it was a blast. And you'd go up there and you'd fight and you'd knock the other person off and then you'd try to gain your balance. And you're standing on a little piece of rope and so you're holding it like this, trying to make sure you don't fall off. And then the next guy would get on and you'd go and you'd fight them and try to win. And it was a lot of fun, but as I begin to think about that this week, I think that's what human relationships can feel like in our own life. You're out there, you're trying to hold it all together. You're trying to act like you've got it under control. You're thinking about yourself, and all of a sudden, somebody comes into your territory, like invades your space or invades your work area, or all of a sudden is becoming a little bit better than you, and you're trying to hold it all together. You're trying to hang on for dear life, but you're trying to fight them, and you're trying to win. You're trying to maintain everything that you can do to stay on the road, to hang on and make sure that they don't knock you off. And your whole world begins to revolve around you and your success and your well-being. And there's nothing wrong with working hard. There's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with self-discipline, with pushing, with driving, with wanting to be successful at where God has placed you. The problem becomes when you begin to place your value, when you begin to place a higher value on what you can get versus who you are with. It becomes an issue when all of a sudden you are more concerned with what you can get, how you can win, than the people you are with. And very quickly, the end begins to justify the means. And maybe you're lucky enough to ring the proverbial bell of success, but then you look back and you've got a trail of relationship carnage behind you. You're there, you win, you succeed, you've accomplished all you have ever wanted to do, but you've stepped on so many people to get there to the end. You look back and there's really no one there to share it with. And as a pastor, I've officiated more funerals than I can keep track of for both extremely wealthy people and extremely poor people, and at every type of funeral and everywhere in between. Whenever anybody gets up there to talk or whenever they show the slideshow, they're never showing pictures of their 401k statement. Right? They don't go, well, we got to get pictures. We got to get the corner office with the view. We've got to get their business card and put it up there. Nobody cares. The people that are talking are friends or family members. The people in the slideshow are friends or family members. It's the people that are there with them in life, not all of the things that they have accomplished. Now you know that inherently. But we live in 2018. We live in the world of social media. And so all of a sudden, we push and we fight and we want to maintain everything good and make sure everything revolves around us. And all of a sudden, all too often, we look back and there's that trail of relationship carnage. Now you're going, well, Chris, this is just part of the culture and the world we live in. Chris, it is social media's fault. It's the one, it puts everything on display. And let me just call a quick time out on that. It is not social media's fault. Now, social media might have put it like, for all on display for all to see, but it is an age-old problem. It's not just the culture we live in. It's not just the new generation coming up. It's not just, well, this is the way we live in. It's our Western civilization. We just push and drive. It's way bigger and way older than that. In fact, Jesus dealt with this 2,000 years ago with some guys in his inner circle, pushing and driving and wanting to step and politic their way to prominence, to honor. And it's a very interesting thing that Jesus begins to deal with as he begins to unpack, and he calls them out on it. And then he begins to describe a way better way to handle relationships. And as followers of Jesus, there is a calling on our lives, a calling from Jesus to value our relationships in such a way that is so vastly different than what our natural tendency is. And he begins to address this with his disciples. Now, if you're here today and you're not a Jesus follower, then honestly, you get to sit there objectively and make your own conclusions at the end of the day. But you're going to see the principle that Jesus teaches. It's a way better way to treat human beings. And it's a way that as you begin to think about your own relationship, it's a way that you would want to be treated as a human as well. If you got a Bible, go ahead and grab it and go to Matthew chapter 20. Matthew chapter 20. If you don't have a Bible, it'll be up on the screen. And we're going to get into a hilariously awkward situation that presents itself to Jesus, and he begins to teach a principle. Matthew chapter 20, we're going to start in verse 20, and here's what Matthew writes. He says, "Then the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her sons. She knelt respectfully to ask a favor. 'What is your request?' he asked. She replied, 'In your kingdom, please let my 2 sons sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left.'" Now, can we just go ahead and embrace the awkwardness that this is? Like, these 2 guys didn't even have the guts to go, "Hey, we were wondering." It's, "Hey, Mom, could you go talk to Jesus for us?" And so Mom, well, yeah, I'll bet, sit my boys on the left and one on the right, and Jesus, and then Jesus, he doesn't scold. He just begins to simply ask some questions. Look at verse 22. "But Jesus answered by saying to them, 'You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink?' 'Oh, yes,' they replied, 'we are able.'" They replied. So don't miss this. Mommy's asking. Jesus goes, "Are you able to respond?" And they're going, "Oh, yeah, Jesus, we can. I mean, this is it." I mean, they are so desperate to have seats of honor, to be on the left and on the right. "Are you able to drink from the cup of suffering?" Yeah, we can do that. Just let us be in places of honor. And look what Jesus says. Verse 23, Jesus told them, "You will indeed drink from my bitter cup, but I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. My Father has prepared those places for the one he has chosen." And then all of a sudden, the other 10 disciples get wind of what's going on, and they get a little upset. Look at verse 24. "When the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant." Now, this is my own personal opinion. I think Matthew took creative liberty and edited the word indignant. They were ticked off. Now, don't forget, Matthew, one of the disciples, right? He's part of the 10. They're ticked off. They get word, "Are you seriously asking for seats? What do you think we've been doing for 3 years? We've given up everything to follow Jesus. What makes you think, James and John, that you deserve the left and the right? And I just imagine Peter going, oh, hey, by the way, did any of you walk on water? Right? I mean, they were ticked off, just like any of us would be if all of a sudden someone goes, hey, Mom, can you ask Jesus, like, can we go left and right? Can we do that kind of stuff? They would tend going, what gives? And then Jesus uses this moment for an unbelievable teaching of a lesson. Look at verse 25. But Jesus called them together, all 12 of them, and said, you know that the rulers in this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. And the one in authority would be Rome. Rome ruled the modern world at that day. And he goes, you know, like, this is what it is like. This is what Rome is like. They are oppressive. They are the ones in authority, and they push others down. You know this, don't you? To which the 12 disciples would go, yeah, we get that. We understand it. And then Jesus flips it upside down. Look at verse 26. He says, but among you it will be different. Not it should be, it might be, it's a theory. It's going, no. As followers of mine, it will be different. And here's how it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be the first among you must become your slave. In other words, Jesus is teaching them this, which is very, very different from the Roman culture of that day. He goes, value relationships for who they are, not what it can do for you. Value the relationships in your life. Value people in your life because of who they are, not what it, meaning the relationship, can do for you. And he compared and contrasted Rome to the followers of Jesus, going, listen, this is what Rome does. They push people down. They lord it over them. They flaunt their authority. It's all about them. It's what the relationship can do for them. He goes, but among you it's going to be different. You value relationships. You value people for who they are, not what the relationship can do for you. A very simple question to ask yourself this is, do you use or serve your relationships? Do you use or do you serve your relationships? When you walk into relationships, friendships, neighbors, co-working relationships, your husband or wife, your kids, the people in your life, do you enter these relationships based off how it will benefit you or how it will benefit them? Do you use these relationships for what it can do for you, how it can benefit you, how you can stay on the rope the longest, or how you can serve them? He's driving this home to his disciples, and fast forward 2,000 years to us today, and it's still an issue. We still want to push, and we want to drive, and we want to go, and we push people down, and we ring the proverbial bell of success and go, look, we've done it. We've got the money, we've got the corner office, we've got the house, we've got the boat, we've got the vacation house, we've got all we've ever wanted, and we look around, and there's nobody there to share it with. And Jesus goes, no, it's opposite. You value your relationships for who they are, not what it can do for you. Now, I want you to go back, and I want you to look at verse 26 and 27, and there's two very distinct words that Jesus uses. At the end of verse 26, he says, whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And then verse 27, whoever wants to be first among you must become your slave. Now, those are two very, very different words that Jesus uses. And if you can go look at the original language, let me just describe it for you this way. The word servant is where we get our word deacon. Deacon. So if you grew up in the Baptist world, you've heard of the word deacon. The word slave, the better word for it is bondservant. Bondservant. Okay, so the way to the way to separate these two in your mind, there we go, I'll go that way, is this. All right, so when it comes to the first word, think of it in terms of the service. In terms of the service. That word, it would literally mean for the person to kick up dust because they're running to do an errand. All right, so think of the first one in terms of the task or the service. Think of the second one in terms of the person. In terms of the person. So you serve the task and you serve the person. So there are two very simple phrases that I want you to work into your vocabulary this week in light of these two words. And they're very simply this. How can I serve and who can I serve? How can I serve and who can I serve? How can I serve? Let's talk about that. Because there are certain tasks in our relationships that you've got a relationship with someone, friend, family member, coworker, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, that there are certain tasks that, well, gosh, that's their world. It's not really my thing. And so you love them, you care for them, you're friends with them. But when it comes to this thing, that's just not really the way you serve. It's not your spiritual gifting. And so you go, oh, you take care of that. And when Jesus goes, no. You care for the person. And so you do the things that maybe you wouldn't normally do, but it's not for your benefit, but for theirs. And so it's that coworker that you're friends with, it's taking that irritating client of theirs this week and going, hey, I'll deal with them this week. It's mowing your neighbor's yard because they're on bed rest or they're sick. It's watching a friend's kids because you know they need a break. It's doing those things that, man, maybe you normally wouldn't do, but because it's for the person, you're willing to serve them, not because it benefits you, not because you can pat yourself on the back and go, I did it. It's going, no. I care for them. How can I serve this week? Saying, Lord, open my eyes to the people around me, to the needs around me, to the service around me. And Lord, let me serve them in a new and unique way, not for my benefit, but for theirs. Earlier this week, I was down in my office, which is down in the basement, and it was the afternoon. I was studying this, and Brianna walks in. And she comes in, pops down on the couch. She goes, hey, how's it going? I was like, oh, good. I was like, hey, let me bounce this idea off you. She goes, okay. And so I started going through this, and I talked about this idea of service and doing kind acts. And I said, hey, man, I want to tie this somehow. Valentine's Day is Wednesday. I'm trying to think. I go, you got any creative ways to tie this to Valentine's Day? And she goes, oh, that's easy. She goes, just challenge them to do something for their spouse that they normally wouldn't do, but the spouse would love. I go, that's a fantastic idea. And I looked at her, I go, is there a way that I can serve you? Y'all, she didn't have to think about it. She didn't take a breath. She goes, yeah, do the laundry. And I thought, I've been set up. Like I replayed the last 5 minutes of my life, and she just like chassayed her little self down, sat down. And because of this stupid sermon, I'm doing laundry all day Wednesday. No. Now, it gets worse. She goes, is there a way that I can serve you that maybe I don't do on a regular basis? Now, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I knew I better not dare answer that one. So I just smiled and go, no, you're absolutely perfect. Perfect. Okay, all right. So figure out a way this week. Your spouse, your significant other, that's your homework of going, how can I serve you? Embrace yourself. Because it's going to be that thing that you're going, well, I kind of figure that's their department. That's their world. That's their spiritual gifting to take the trash out, right? They've got the talent to mow the lawn, to do laundry, to do all these things. But you go, you know what? It's not about me. It is about them. And I care deeply about you. I value you, who you are in this relationship, not what it can do for me. So how can I serve you this week? And you'd be amazed when you begin to ask this question. All of a sudden, they're going to be shocked a little bit and go, well, what do you mean? No. I'm just here to serve you. Is there a client this week that's frustrating you that I can help you with? Is there something going on at school that I can be a listening ear for? Is there something in your life that I just want to simply help you out and serve you with nothing in return, no expectations in return? This is what Jesus is going, no. We're flipping it upside down from what you experience in Rome. 2018, we're flipping it upside down from what's natural in all of our hearts and minds going, how can I serve you with no expectations in return? And then the second part, how can I serve, and then who can I serve? Who can I serve? See, all too often when we think of serving someone, we usually think of, I need to serve the person with the season tickets. I need to serve the person with the house on 30A. I need to serve the person that's going to do that. I need to serve the person because when all of a sudden it comes time, then I'll get something in return. The challenge for you this week is serve somebody who can do nothing for you in return. Serve somebody this week who could never, ever repay you as long as they live. That is what it means to serve somebody with no expectations in return. So all too often, listen, if I scratch your back, you'll scratch my back. If I help you out with this, then there's going to be a time, when I'm going to need something, I'm going to come to you, you're going to help me at that time. And what Jesus is saying, no. It's those people that can do nothing for you in return. They can't repay you. They can't give you the season tickets. They can't give you the beach house. They can't give you the promotion. They can't give you the raise. They can't give you the connection. They're the ones that can do nothing in return. You start by serving them. Well, yeah, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of emotion. Jesus going, yeah, but that's what it means to serve. That's what followers of Jesus should do. You serve the person for who they are, not what it can do for you. And so find somebody this week that cannot repay you, that can't give you the raise, the promotion, that can't help you out anyway, and just go, listen, I am here to serve you. How can I help you? A few months ago, we had some septic tank issues, and so a buddy of mine named Shannon, he came out and he started digging around to fix it. Now, my son David, my second born, he's an 8-year-old, and he loves tractors. Now, he can't sit still for 5 minutes in the classroom, but he can stand there literally for hours and watch heavy equipment operate. Tractors and dump trucks and earth. Anytime we see it, he's just fascinated. And so Shannon came out and we started digging up and fixing our septic tank. And David walks out there in the front porch and just stands there like this. And he's just mesmerized by it. And Brianna and I knew this, and so he just stands there and not asking, just watching and mesmerized. And Shannon, he sees David stand there and stops the tractor. And he goes, hey, David, you want to come drive the tractor? And David's eyes get this big, and he looks around and goes, yeah. But he didn't ask Mom or Dad. He just runs out there and climbs up there on Shannon's lap, and he begins to operate the tractor. And we took a picture of it. And so, yeah, there's David right there, and he had his little work gloves on, and he was just in hog heaven, doing that. And Brianna and I saw it, and we thought, man, that's just a really cool thing, and very grateful for Shannon and doing that. And so we expected, Shannon to allow David to do it for 5 or 10 minutes. That'd be awesome. It wasn't 5 or 10 minutes. He let David sit up there and drive that tractor between 2 to 3 hours. The entire time he worked on our septic tank, David was there. Essentially, David dug up around our septic tank. And I'm just here to tell you that when you're operating a tractor, having an 8-year-old up there handling things, it slows the process down unbelievably. There's no way you're flying through this, but Shannon knew it was a really big deal to David. So for 2 to 3 hours, he lets his little 8-year-old, and he's teaching him how to scoop the dirt out and move it over here. And David, it was the greatest day of David's life. You go, oh my goodness. And a few weeks later, it was David's birthday. And just to show you how awesome Shannon was, he knew that. And he stops by and he drops off for David's birthday an extra key to one of his Kubota tractors and gives it to David. And David, it's right there on David's little nightstand. And in David's mind, this was unbelievable. Now, there's absolutely nothing in the world an 8-year-old could ever do to repay Shannon. But Shannon saw this kid and his fascination with tractors and goes, man, let me teach you how to operate a tractor. And this week I was tucking in David. I'm not making this up. Tucking him in and everything. And we were laying there talking. And I just asked him this question. I go, hey, David, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he goes, oh, I want to be a tractor man, Dad. He goes, I want to build things. I want to run tractors. That's what I want to do. I go, man, David, that's awesome. And we were, yeah. And I go, what about preaching? And he goes, yeah, I guess I can do that too. Almost like, it's not that hard, Dad. Now driving a tractor, but yeah, I'll preach for you. So, but there's a person in your life that is mesmerized or fascinated or could use your help or your attention. You buying them lunch or coffee or inviting them to your office or to a meeting that they normally shouldn't be sitting in. You're an upperclassman, you're a junior or senior, you sit next to that freshman who's scared at lunch. They can do nothing to repay you, but you serve them expecting nothing in return. This is what Jesus is talking about. It's not that I'll pat myself on the back. It's not I'm going to serve you so one day you can serve me. It's going, listen, you can do absolutely nothing in this world to repay you, but because of that, I'm here to serve you. Who can you serve in your life? Who is that person that it's going to take some extra time out of your day, a little extra money out of your wallet, a little extra emotions out of your tank, but oh my goodness, There's that person that if you just listen to them, if you ask them a question, it could forever and profoundly change their life. Value relationships for who they are, not what it can do for you. Do you use them or do you serve people in your relationships? Now, Jesus finishes this teaching with an unbelievable statement. And it's the statement that I have been reading over and over and over this week. And I've read it, I don't know how many times before this, but it's still, every time I read it, it really wrecks me personally, all right? So Jesus is teaching, right? James and John and their mom is asking Jesus, and Jesus goes, hey, first should be last should be first, that whole thing. And then I imagine, this is my own thought, I just wonder if he takes a breath and pauses, because it's just shortly after this that he's about to experience that cup of suffering. This is near the end of his ministry. But look at verse 28 as he finishes up this teaching, right? Not just going, you guys do this. Look at verse 28. He says, for even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus demonstrated servant leadership at the highest and most costly level. Jesus didn't just teach on servant leadership going, hey, serve them no matter what the task, serve them no matter the person. He goes, no. I'm about to demonstrate for you at the highest and most costly level what servant leadership is. No matter the task, the cross, no matter the person, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He goes, I'm about to demonstrate this at the highest level. And so we as human beings interacting with other human beings can do this because he modeled it at the highest level. You can serve that person regardless of the task. Maybe it's outside of your wheelhouse. You can serve that person even though they can do nothing in return. The reason why isn't because of you, but it's because of Jesus. And it's because he goes, listen, what I have taught you, I'm about to demonstrate here in a very short time. That the Son of Man did not come to be served, but he came to serve you and to give his life as a ransom for many. In other words, as a substitute. He goes, I'm about to do this, and I'm about to demonstrate this at the highest of levels. And if you're here today and you're not a follower of Jesus, my guess is in your life, there may be some people in here in this room or else watching online, that there hasn't been a person that you can think of in your life that has said, I'm here to serve you without expecting anything in return from you. You've never had anybody say that to you. You've always had people serve you or help you with an expectation of something in return. And if that is you, I'm just here to tell you that there is a man that walked this earth named Jesus, the Son of God, who said, I've come not to be served, but to serve you and to give my life, he goes, as a ransom for many. And you can be a part of that word many if you would place your faith and your trust in him. And accept and receive the fact that he goes, I came to serve you with no expectations in return. I came to love you with no expectations in return. I came to give my life as a ransom, as a payment for your sins with no expectations in return. And you can accept that love, and you can accept that gift, and you can accept that forgiveness, and you can accept that ransom, that payment for your sin by simply saying, I place my faith, I place my trust in Jesus. And all of a sudden you begin to experience a new life and a new love, and all of a sudden now you begin to walk in your own life and treat human beings the way Jesus taught us to treat them. I was talking with Brianna about this last night. I said, can you imagine? I said, could you imagine just if the world as we knew it began to treat human beings the way Jesus said to treat human beings? Like, just think about that in your own world. Like, everybody goes, you know what? We're so frustrated. Let's just treat others the way Jesus said to treat others. Let's serve others regardless of the task, whether we like it or not. Let's serve others regardless of who they are, and if they can't get anything in return. Can you imagine how vastly different the world would be? And Jesus didn't just teach it. My goodness, he modeled it. It wasn't just say, do as I say and not as I do. Just go, no. I'm about to lay my life down as the greatest and highest example for the entire world to see. Not for any other reason other than he goes, I love you, and I'm here to serve you. And as a follower of Jesus, my goodness, I hope that just wrecks you to the core of who you are in an unbelievable way. To be reminded that the Son of God came to earth and gave his life for you and for me, and we experience that love and forgiveness when we place our faith in him. We value relationships for who they are, not what they can do for us. And Jesus goes, I'm doing the same thing for you. I'm doing this. I'm going to the cross for you. I came to this earth and lived a perfect life for you. Died on the cross. I rose from the grave for you. And all you have to do is place your faith and your trust in Jesus and receive a new life and a love that you cannot possibly comprehend, but to know that the Son of God loves you for who you are, not what you can do for him. Let me pray for us. With every head bowed and every eye closed, let me just speak to those of you here in this room that you aren't followers of Jesus. And my goodness, I don't know what your life story is, but I'm guessing is that there are people in your life that haven't loved you, haven't appreciated you for who you are. They've always expected something in return. And man, I am deeply sorry that that has happened to you. But I'm also deeply want you to know that Jesus Christ loves you and cares for you and not expecting anything in return, that love is available and waiting for you if you would just accept it. If you'd place your faith in him and say, today I accept that love and that forgiveness. I place my faith and trust in him. If you've never trusted Jesus, you're going, Chris, how in the world do I do that? What's important is that it starts in your heart. And you just begin to confess it with your mouth. You can just say something like, today, Jesus, I place my faith and my trust in you. Please come into my heart. Forgive me for my sins. Jesus, help me to live for you from this day forward. You walk out of here a new person in Christ. And if you're here and you are a follower of Jesus, man, I would just simply ask that you begin to wrestle with those two questions. How can I serve and who can I serve? And maybe there's just something that's been a bit beneath you that you go, you know what, this would really benefit that person. This would really help that person out. Or maybe there's a person that, my goodness, would love to be invited into your world. That in the back of your mind, you're going, well, they can't do anything for me in return. I just don't know. And you go, you know what? Beginning this week, I begin to help that person. I begin to do that task for that person. Not for a pat on your back, not so you can feel good, but because Jesus modeled it at the highest and most costly level. Father, I pray for all of us. Father, I thank you for sending your son Jesus to the world to live a life, to die on the cross as a ransom for my sins, as forgiveness for my sins. The Son of Man who came to serve, not to be served. Jesus, I thank you for that. Lord, my prayer is that you would challenge all of us, inspire all of us as to look at our relationships through the lens of who they are, not how it can benefit us. Thank you for leading the way and setting the example, Jesus. We ask these things in your precious and holy name.